as I've got epilepsy, I can't drive anywhere, and he has driven me everywhere since that happened. To tracks, to studios, and he still does to this day. And so as a present for Christmas last year, I bought him tickets, and this year he came to Le Mans, heard me on the PA system, and that's the first time he heard me commentate since Wilton Mill in 2017. Seeing him hearing me, and he sent me a video, and he's like, I can hear you.
Welcome to The Pass Track Talks, the ultimate traveling podcast for motorsport stories.
We are Nicole and Mattia, and together we wish to narrate the characters of the little big world that we're so passionate about.
We meet the drivers as well as the insiders directly at the racetracks, and throughout our unfiltered talks, behind-the-scenes anecdotes, pure emotions and fragments of intense life emerge, together with the universal values that characterize this discipline.
Because in some way, the past is also about you. Enjoy.
Welcome to The Pass Track Talks. I'm Mattia Livraghi.
I'm Nicole Miotto.
And today we're here with a new guest at the Autodromo Nazionale Monza. We're here for the ACI Racing Weekend, but as usual, we will not speak about the race because we are truly honored and grateful to have Chris McCarthy here with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mattia. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you for having me. No, it's an honour to be at the circuit, but no, more than that, really great to join you guys. Thanks for having me on the show.
No, thanks you for coming. Also, during a race weekend where you are working, you're commentating on the FRECA Championship. We will get straight into your story, but first of all,
I just have a quick thing to say because they're obviously racing right here behind us, and so probably you will hear the sound of the engines in the background.
But we hope you like it. And speaking about the sound of the engines, it's really curious how we came to know each other. Maybe we will tell you, but before telling that anecdote, whilst we were preparing for this episode, we looked you up on the internet and
stalked you.
And we found out that we have something in common. I mean, I'm not comparing, I would never, but we read that you wanted to be a racing driver too, actually. I read it on your LinkedIn page. And that's the same dream I had and actually still have a bit because
hope's still there.
I consider myself I still consider myself a driver, but now you're working in motorsport, not as a racing driver but as a commentator, and so we wanted to ask you, how did that all change and why are you here today like this?
I definitely did. I wanted to be a racing driver. Not always. I actually wanted to be a football player growing up.
That's not written in your LinkedIn page.
No. I was very little when I wanted to do football. That was the initial dream. Then I did a bit of taekwondo. So I was very sporty as a kid. And then a friend of mine did go-karting and got me into it when I was about 12 years old.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then from there the dream was to be a racing driver. I started racing, started testing in 2007. My first season was 2008, so you can probably guess who my hero was growing up. Lewis Hamilton was my race.
That's another thing we have in common.
Exactly.
He's my idol too.
My first season was a pretty good one with him winning the world championship. So, but I absolutely adored him as a young driver. But I raced for 5 seasons in total, or 4 and a bit, and absolutely loved it. Racing Rotax mostly. Great. I always still follow it. I was watching the Rotax Grand Finals
in Sarno
this week. I used to love that event. It's always been a dream of mine to go, and it still is to this day. Maybe not to race, but of course to commentate on it would be a dream come true. And I used to love. I raced in Mini Max, in Junior Max, Senior Max, and then I ended my career racing in a KGP.
In
that category, doing the British Championship. So. Which was really good fun.
And how did you then, we say in Italian, passare dall'altra parte? Like so from being a driver, you started being someone who narrates the drivers. So, which is even here something I'm trying to do, like with our podcast and with all our other activities. But as I said, I still feel a racing driver. Do you still feel a bit a racing driver too?
Yeah, a little bit. You know, I still really enjoy watching the races, and when I do, I still well, watching the race we had today in particular. Yeah, I always do get that buzz from it that I had when I raced. I really do enjoy it, but I enjoy the commentary just as much, to be honest, as I did the racing, and that's what drew me to want to do that even more. And that's how it got a new passion out of me that I didn't know. When I raced myself, I used to love watching the racing as much as I enjoyed doing the racing. I used to love going to the side of the track, trying to pick out a driver and say, oh, he's going to come through the pack. And then I'd keep an eye on that driver throughout the weekend, watch them come through the heats. And I used to love that. I used to be like, when you go, you'll know from your time in racing, when you're on a pre-grid, the drivers will go to the front of the pre-grid and watch the race before. Sure. I was always like the last driver back from the pre-grid in the car, because I wanted to see if my driver, like, is he going to get through? And I'd never speak to that driver probably after about it. So I had some really, like, I remember one of them in particular was Lando Norris. Genuinely, this was, I did a series called Formula Kart Stars. Okay. And I went and watched the C final of a cadet race, and this tiny kid, Lando, maybe not that small, but no, he was very small. But you know what I mean? This tiny kid, Lando Norris, he was at the back of the C final. I don't know how he ended up there, but he came to the front of the C final. Yeah. Then I was like, oh, and he was way off in the distance. I thought, let me see how he does in the B final. Came from the back of the B final to the front.
And then he went in
and then I was like, I went out my way then to go and watch him in the A final, and then he broke down on the formation lap.
No.
I was devastated. I was more so than from myself. I was like, no. And that whole season I always kept an eye on this Lando Norris kid. He was only 8 years old. And then Lando Norris went on to become who he is today. But
did you ever get to commentate on him?
No,
because
we were in the paddock at the same time.
Okay.
So and George Russell was in the paddock that year, and Alex Albon. So it was a pretty
good company.
Yeah.
You said you didn't know you had this passion for commentating. So how did you find out?
By complete accident. When I was. During my last season of racing, I suffered an epileptic seizure, which brought a very abrupt end to my career. It was about halfway through I was competing in KGP in the British Championship, but this was at a club race at Wilton Mill, which I was fighting for the championship there to get my third title, and whilst on a practice day, I just woke up in an ambulance. I wasn't on track or anything. I was just stood by the side of the track with a friend, and woke up in the ambulance, and unfortunately was told that I was going to lose my license for 5 years. So when you suffer a seizure,
they tell you this.
They told me. Well, the medics were very good at calming me down and then explaining the situation. You know, right there and then, look, you'll lose your drive. I was 17 at the time, and they said, we understand you have a driver's license. You'll lose that for a year, and you'll lose your racing license now for 5 years, at least, because you have to go 5 years without having a seizure to then get the racing license back, which I've never done. I suffer with seizures every year, so it was. For me, it was an immediate end to any form of racing at that time. And I was going through a bit of a period then where the racing was very expensive for my family. So we were deciding what to do, whether to continue, whether to not. So it kind of made the decision for us that maybe it was obviously time to stop. So
sure. And how did you react to that? Because I consider myself a very privileged person, but I know how important this sport is for people who are, how important things can be for people who are passionate about them. So, I had to stop racing for some months, for a year, because of various reasons. And I remember that despite being a very lucky kid, I really missed that. And also on a psychological level, it was tough to handle. So I can't imagine what you felt. Yeah,
initially not great. I started college like the next like 2 weeks later, doing TV and film, and I wasn't the best person to be around for the first couple of weeks of college. Like I really didn't take it well. But I was doing TV and film, which was a new passion of mine, which I wanted to pursue that. And then it was only I went back to the track the next month, the following rounds, to thank the medical staff, see my team, and just say hello to them, let them know I was okay. And it was when I was leaving the track for what would have been the very last time, it just lit something in me to say, that can't be my last time at a racetrack properly. I need to do something about this. So on the journey home that day, I said to my dad, I've got this crazy idea. I'm going to get cameras from my college. I'm going to go and film races. And he was like, yeah, you should do it. Because we were given an assignment to do a live production as our end of year course. Yeah. So I was like, I'm going to do that. So I went back to the track again a month later, and I pitched this idea. Would you let me film the races for like a small fee? And they said, yeah, let's do it. So 3 months after my seizure, I was back at the track with cameras I'd borrowed from my college, with some of my classmates, and we filmed what would have been the November round, the last round of the season. We did that one for free just to see how it would go. We were a small crew of 3 or 4 people. We put cameras around the track and filmed the races, edited them together, and and then we put them out. And then they said, "Come back the next season, and we'll pay you to do it." So that was it. We started I started a small business, and we filmed the whole season. 2013 season, we filmed the whole thing. And it was strange because I used to race the guys I was filming, and then the communication was hard because we didn't have radios. So my friend forgot to press record on the first race, which didn't go. And he was at the hairpin. I was like, "You've got to record it." But we couldn't speak to each other, so it was like that was a bit of a challenge. But no, it was really good fun. And we recorded the whole of the next season, and we would do that until I ended college. And a lot of my classmates would say, "Can I come on and do it so I can use it for my coursework?" And I'll say, "Okay." So but by the end, I think the whole class came and did it. So yeah, it was really good.
Wow, that's a crazy story.
Yeah, they all started growing a passion for racing.
That's so nice.
Yeah. And then when I ended college, we had to stop it, because I didn't have the access to the cameras anymore. But we would be editing, after we filmed on a Sunday, we would be editing till 8 o'clock every day till about Wednesday to get the race out by Thursday. The edit suites would be open till 8 o'clock, so we'd be editing everything. So
wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. It was really, really good fun. Really good fun.
Did you want to say something?
No, go.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
No, because I had this image of you not being there a few months after what happened, and after being told that you had to stop racing at least for quite a bit. And when you were there with that camera, was it more the joy of being there, even though not as a driver? Was it more the thought that you had to be there? As you said, you were filming the guys you were racing against until a few races before. So, I mean, was it there, like, do you say conflicting emotions in English? I don't know if it's correct.
Yeah, a little bit, because I wanted to be there. But at the same time, I really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. And then we did 5 rounds of it. And then there was no commentary on those rounds. We just put them out, and my dad said to me, it's good, it needs commentary though. And I was going to ask a commentator called Henry Baudet, who does the grand finals, to do it. And my dad said, just do it yourself, just do it, because you might have to pay him, and just do it yourself. So I just did it myself. The first commentary I did, it was a lot different to how I do it now. It was like,
do you have it still somewhere?
Yeah. It's on
we can see it.
It's on YouTube. Yeah, you can find it. WMKC TV. We were called. We called ourselves Rolling Star Productions.
Nice.
And I mean, the first one was not great, but it was it was good fun. I'd have to record it a few times. I'll do that again. I'll do that again.
Because you did it afterwards, not during the race.
It wasn't live.
Was it more difficult than doing it live?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, that's how I started, and then that was good practice because it wasn't live, so we'd had it on, and I know I enjoyed the commentating more than the filming then. So that was when I got to the end of college, I said to the track, I can't film the races anymore, but I'll come and commentate for you on the PA system, because they'd never. It was the first time the track ever had someone film a race there. Wow. And now it gets filmed, live streamed up until this day, every round, because a company then took over from us about a year later and streamed every round. And then I said after that, you've never had a PA commentator. Why didn't I just do that instead? So that's what.
Do you ever go back to that track?
Yeah, I do. I was there about last year, I think. I do their awards every year.
Okay.
So I was there with Zach O'Sullivan this year presenting the awards. But the first time I went to commentate their live race, there was I think a problem with the PA system. It wasn't working, because no one had really used it.
Oh my God.
But they were just asking me, like, keep going, just keep going. And stood in the room behind me was the owners of PF International. Yes, okay. Yeah. And it turned out that they had Kart Masters next week. You know Kart Masters?
So
we had
Kart Masters, you know the race.
Okay. Yeah, Kart Masters.
Play,
yeah, sure.
And they didn't have a commentator for it, so they just said to me, "Oh, you're a commentator," and I said, "Yes, I am."
Wow.
And they said, "Would you commentate Kart Masters?" And I said, "Yes." They said, "Have you done this before?" And I said, "Yes." Yeah. And so they said, "All right, be at PF next week, and you'll." But they said it's going to be live streamed. Have you done that before? And I was like, "Yes,
of course."
Yeah, of course. Yeah. No.
No.
Yeah. But I was So I did all 3 days. Kart Masters 2014 was my first. Okay. My first broadcast, my first time commentating live.
And didn't you feel any pressure? Okay.
Yeah. Well, to tell you how terrified I was, on the Friday, I turned up and they said, "Okay, just, we're still setting up the commentary box. Just commentate from the balcony while we're setting it up." Because it was a brand new commentary box, and the guy gave me the microphone. And he said, "You're not on the live stream yet. You're just on the PA system. Okay. Here's the microphone. Just go." And I said, "All right." And I was so terrified I didn't turn the microphone on. And I did that intentionally. I just held the microphone like that, and I was like. And then he came back. He ran back 15 minutes later, and he said, "I'm so sorry. You've been talking to yourself for 15 minutes." No. And I was like. "I've not been talking." I didn't say that to him. I was like, "Oh, really? Oh no, it's fine." And he was like, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." And then he just looked at me and went, "Just turn it on." And I was like, "I've got to start talking now."
And then when you started,
and he was looking right at me and went, "Just turn it on." And I was like, "Okay, here we go." And that was it. Yeah, but Oliver Bearman was racing in that.
I can't believe it.
So he was in my first race. And then I did his first F1 race in 2024, which was quite a nice
full circle.
Nice story. Yeah.
Well, how did you feel in doing that? Because I believe that when those drivers come on the world stage and everybody sees them, it's obviously amazing and they have loads of visibility, but it's also nice for who lives in motorsport and also at lower levels, not only Formula 1, Formula 2, Formula 3. I think it's something special, like, as we know, and this is the reason why we came to know each other, is something we're not commentating on him, but I mean, we know Kimi Antonelli from when he was a really, really little kid. Yeah. And so it's crazy to look at him now, and I can't imagine what it was for you to commentate on him when he was so young, and then F1, I mean, from the school to all the way up.
Yeah, no, it's Ollie was one of the ones I commentated on him a lot. He was in my first race, and then I sort of did a lot of his stuff in the X30s, and then and then in F3 and then in some F2, and then in F1. So yeah, one of the drivers I've sort of followed up really, which is nice. I've stayed in touch with him, his parents, and I know his dad, and then his mechanic as well, who's been the same person all the way through. Jamie, who's a lovely guy, who he's kept with him. So yeah, that's been it's been nice to watch him. Strange, I'm sure you know that feeling, and yourself as well, when you see them, going from little kids to to driving these big cars. It's quite surreal, but yeah, you're very happy for them at the same time.
When you see those drivers race and you commentating on them, do you also feel a bit as if you were racing with them, having also been a driver, or is that something that doesn't really kick in? I mean, do you feel like you're there in the race too, or you manage to keep like the things apart? Yeah,
I'd say probably keep things apart. It's hard. It's hard not to get emotionally invested in the race. You have to really take like the Formula 3 one, for example. There's so much going on in that race, and both drivers are. Leo's a lovely guy. Gabriele's a lovely guy. Either of them you'd love to win, and it's easy to want to get emotionally vested into that. But you just got to kind of call the race as you see it, really. And I was happy for either one of them. Luke Browning's the same. They're all really nice. They all work really hard. You see how all of them, how hard they all really work. And yeah, you always got to remind yourself that they don't act like it, but they're really young guys. Yeah. They're all 16, 17-year-olds. They act 10 years older, a lot of them. You know, they act like they're you know,
very mature.
You kind of forget that they're only teenagers a lot of the times, and you almost have to remind yourself that they're on this journey, because they're professional drivers at an F4 level now these days, which is a credit to them. Yeah.
And speaking always about the racing and the commentating, you were saying that you felt the pressure before that first commentary back in the days. Do you still feel it nowadays, or?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. 100%, particularly before, you know, the F3 finale was a big one, working out the points and stuff like that. But yeah, particularly doing Formula 2 was the same. Yeah, I'd say the same before any race. You still feel it. It's good nerves in a way, but when you get like those, if you're jumping into a race for a first time, 100%. But I 100% still feel it, but in a good way.
Do you think racing helped you manage those emotions?
A little, yeah, it's a good question actually. A little bit. I always had my routine as a driver that I would go through with my dad and stuff like that, and I guess I don't know if I quite have the same, but I was able to use that. I worked with a psychologist as well. I was in an academy and I worked with a psychologist. I guess that helped a little bit. But I'm very I try and analyze my own performances all the time, even as a commentator, just like I would as a driver, and I think that helps as well.
You watch your commentary back?
Yeah. Very analytical of, all right, you could have done that differently, you could have done that differently. Can't go back in time and change it, but well, all right, how do you improve that? Me and Alex Brundle in particular, the first thing we say after a race, we don't sort of pat each other on the back. It's more, right, now, okay, we're through it. What do we do differently next time? And just that, and that's how we've gone through the season, really. So maybe when we're quiet, it's not like we don't go put the mics down. It's more, we do say, oh, right, well, that was good. Like, how do we get better now? How do we get better now? So that's how we kind of approach the season, really. So yeah, I guess that was how I was as a driver, and that's
always improve.
Yeah, that's trying how I've tried to be as a commentator. But the more you enjoy it as well, if you're enjoying yourself, everyone's going to enjoy listening with you. That's what I try to do. Got to try and get rid of the nerves straight away, I guess. Yeah.
But is it similar also to, for example, during races, usually personally, before the green flag waves, when you're there on the pre-grid, you feel the tension, then you start the engine and everything else just vanishes because you're so focused and you're so into it and you enjoy it so much. Is it similar in commentating?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. When you've got a countdown going on, you're like, okay, here we go. And you can feel everything. You're going to hear everything going on in your ear. You're like, Yeah, and then the intro plays. You're like, okay, this is it.
This is it.
Let's not mess this up. But once you get through your first 30 seconds, you hand over to the person you're with for the first time. Do the grid. Once you're through that part, and they're off, then you're all good. Then I'd say that's when you start going off on the formation lap. Once you hit that, you're all good. I'd say so. Yeah.
Did it happen? I guess it happens to everyone to make some errors, and how do you get over them? Because I imagine you also feel a responsibility when you're commentating on a race where there are also some risky situations where there are some drivers where you know that people watching at home, maybe there are relatives, or I can't imagine, but we were just thinking before, and we said sometimes it's easy for us from the sofa to say, oh, what is he saying? But then you need to think about what the situation in which the commentator is, and it's not. I guess it's not easy.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing of we try and analyze, like, right, how could we have done better? And that's you do. You know, one of the main thing is how do we make it good for the people listening, and then obviously you do bear in mind that you want it to be good for the driver. So I know I've mentioned it a lot, but with the F3 finale, for example, the person I wanted to enjoy that even more so was when Leo got out of the car and he watched it back. I wanted him to watch it back and go, that was amazing. And I wanted his family to watch that and go, that was incredible. But also the people watching it live, you want it to them to go, that's incredible. Like someone just watches that for the first time and has never watched Formula 3 before. The most important thing is they knew what was going on, or if they watch a Freca race today, they know what's going on. So one of our biggest things has been trying to add context into what's going on. So why should you care that Roman Bielinski might have won today? You know, like, why should that matter to you? Because you don't know who he is if you're watching from the sofa. So we try and give you a reason to want to cheer for him, and then a reason to cheer for Ugo Chukwu. So that's the approach that we've taken into commentary this year. It's trying to give you a reason to invest into these drivers you might know nothing about if you're just looking through for the first time. So every driver out there has their own story. So whether they finish first or 31st, so it's just trying to tell that story for them, and for that you're going to invest in one of them maybe more than others. So that's what we try and do. I think when I watch the Olympics a lot, you'd always get invested in certain athletes for that.
Yeah, and by the way, you commentated the Olympics this year.
Yeah.
How was that? Because racing and basketball, right? Two very different sports.
Yes, yeah. Very surreal. Yeah, the skateboarding I had 48 hours notice, so that was just like.
Oh, you did also skateboarding?
Yeah, skateboarding and basketball.
We thought only basketball. We didn't know about skateboarding.
Skateboarding, it was a bit last minute. Yeah. I found out it was because skateboarding only happened because of the weather. So the person who was supposed to do it couldn't do it because the date changed. But yeah, it was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
And did you have to prepare a lot for that?
Yeah, for basketball in particular. Yeah, I did 7 days of that, and it was surreal. I loved the Olympics as a kid. When I started 10 years ago, it was like the biggest goal for me is to do the Olympics one day, and doing it was it was very, very surreal, to be honest. Hearing like the intro was like really emotional. I did a rehearsal day. I remember where they just got us in to test it, and I commentated Novak Djokovic playing tennis, and I was like, oh my god, like this is going to be insane. And that was just rehearsal, and then we did the basketball, and doing the gold medal moment, I was like shaking after. I was like, that was unbelievable. So yeah, and again, it was one of those things you knew that person will never. I think the gold medal winner was 38, and you thought that's going to be the last time he probably plays in the Olympics. Wow. So calling that was unbelievable. So yeah, it was quite surreal to watch back, and all my family were watching, and yeah, it was crazy. So it was crazy.
But yeah. I mean, you've mainly commentated on motorsport, and you've been a racing driver. So how much was it different? Because I guess that having been a racing driver gives you another perspective, because you know what those guys are living. Well, maybe in that case, basketball, it wasn't like this. So was it more challenging in some way?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I had to learn the sport from the ground up. I knew that for the basketball fans, I was never going to be good enough. So I had to accept that straight away. Like hardcore basketball fans are going to know more than me. And that was just how it is. So I was more like, okay, for the people who don't know what's going on, just tuning into it, let's just for them, tell them what's going on. Like, this is how, because 3x3 basketball was only its second Olympics. So this is what's going on. This is why these are the athletes' stories. You know, there's some great stories in there. And this is why you should watch this game and care about it. So that was, I felt my job for it. The terminology, the intricacies, it was almost too much to learn there. So I focused on that, and I think that was what I really went for.
That's a nice
approach.
Yeah, really nice, because you realize what you can do to make a difference in that commentary, I guess, and. It's nice when you say to give people a reason. Also, when you were speaking about the drivers, about their stories. And so I have another curiosity, because it's a bit also what we try to do with our podcast, to try to communicate what's behind the scenes in this amazing world, and to try to also get people who maybe are not so passionate about the pure racing side, but about the stories, to get them into this crazy world. So how much do you try to go into the stories of the drivers, and how much do relationships count in your commentary? I mean, because then you see them in the paddock, you talk to them, so that side is part of maybe your job, but I think it's something very nice for you to do.
Yeah, a lot. I mean, it's been challenging with Formula 3, because I do it from the studio in London. So I've not seen a race in person since I've started doing it. That's just F1 setup is all at Biggin Hill, which is a mind-blowing facility, and it's quite, for me living in London, it's obviously quite convenient. But the drivers are quite good at responding to my messages on Twitter, on Instagram. But I think thankfully knowing a lot of them and doing some research on them, you can find what it means to them and seeing their seasons, but having just an open conversation with them as much as you can helps. And you'll see sometimes when they're maybe a bit down, and then sometimes when they're a bit up. I think a good example was Matthias Zagazzetta. I'm sure he won't mind me saying, but when he was in this paddock, he was really, really struggling. Just wasn't going his way at all. And I spoke to him at Red Bull Ring, and it's just, things weren't going his way. And then he signed for F3. Then he got the podium, first Peruvian on the podium. And so when I called that day, I was able to tell that story of speaking to him here at Red Bull Ring, but at Red Bull Ring, where he was really down, and it looked like he was, ready to throw the towel in on it all. But it was a nice story of fight back, and you could hear through his team radio that was all coming through. So stuff like that really, really helps, I guess.
I think that emotions play a key role in this job and in this world and in life in general.
Yeah.
But do you need sometimes to struggle to hold them back, because maybe you need to realize that you're still narrating the race and you need to explain what's going on? Is it difficult?
Yeah. I mean, obviously you might speak to more drivers than others, but you got to remember there's 31 out there. So you absolutely have to make sure you do not sound at all biased to one driver, and not emotionally invested in one driver. So if one driver gives me a lift to the track, I can't then go and talk about him more than others. Or if that driver gives me a lift to the track and then has an incident and it's his fault or her fault, you've just got to say how it is. So you got to take all the emotions out of it. Knowing the fact you might see them later, and they're racing drivers and know how it works. So that is a hard bit, but you're there to do that job, and everyone can see what you're seeing, and you've got to remember that. So it's on the wall. So yeah, if you don't call it how it is, then people can clearly see. So we had an incident in the race today, and it was very, very obvious what happened. So you've just got to call it how it is, and the driver would have known that as well.
Was ever any driver upset with what you said in a comment? Did that ever happen? Because it's another side of the job that we never think about. At least true. Because no, I never thought about maybe a driver being a bit upset. Maybe you have also a friendly relationship with the driver, and then he watches the race back, and I don't know, Chris, but that wasn't actually.
I used to get disagreements in karting. Yeah.
When commentating.
Yeah. That was probably the only place really. From parents.
I was gonna ask you.
Then that's clear why. Okay.
Yeah. So, but. And that's I think that's different because in karting, as you know, you're on a PA system around the circuit, and so the parents can hear what you're saying, and it's quite hard because when you commentate karting on a PA system around the circuit, it can then be heard by the stewards as well on the track. So I remember one of the first times I commentated was at Wilton Mill. And I called an incident, and a driver took someone else out, and I went, 33 took 43 out at Christmas. It was, to me, blatantly obvious, but none of the stewards were looking at that incident. But it was clear as day, like it just happened, and I was like, driver A took driver B out, and then continued calling the race. Driver B's parents were like, well, the commentator saw it, because the stewards hadn't seen this incident. So that driver B's parents came up to the commentary booth and went, he saw it, get him in the stewards, and he should come and, tell him how come he saw it and you didn't. So I used to get a lot of that, people thinking if I'd seen an incident that I should go in the stewards and talk about it. And then if I called an incident, they would think I'm having an influence on the stewards. So yeah.
That's a lot to think about.
Yeah, and then sometimes you'd then be told, look, if you see an incident, just remember everyone can hear you. So I used to get told just sit on the fence, and I didn't really like doing that. So I just used to, I didn't really like doing that, to be honest. So, but now obviously you can just, when you're on a feed like that, you've got no influence on what the stewards are going to say. You can just say it how it is. It's but doing that on the PA system was a lot more difficult.
I imagine.
Yeah.
But thinking back to those, looking back on those days with the first karting commentary on a PA system, and now reaching F3, F2, F1, how does it feel? Do you did you get used to it, or is it still something that maybe you say, wow, this is incredible to think where I started and now I'm here?
Yeah.
Even because, I imagine we're speaking about 2014, which, 10 years, but 10 years fly by and you're still very young. So, is that amazing still in your head to think about all that?
Yeah, it is. Because when I started in 2014, it was the goal. I used to listen to Will Buxton and then to Alex. And I was like, I want to be the next Will Buxton. Will Buxton stopped, and I was like, I'm going to get his job now. Then Alex Jakes took it, and I was like, I hate this guy. And then now me and Alex Jakes has helped me a huge amount, and he's now a really good friend of mine. He's helped me tremendously. But I was naive at the time, thinking I was just going to walk straight into it. But it was, from then on, it was the goal. When I listened to Alex Jakes all the time, and I was like, that's when that opportunity comes up, I want to be there doing it, and so I just set my sights on it really. And season by season, I just planned it as a driver, moving up. Taking it season by season, and it's surreal to say that I do it, to be honest. And now I'm here, I almost just have to pinch myself really and kind of go, how do I stay here now? Just and that's where the analysis comes from, to always try and improve race by race. But at the same time, I really do enjoy it, and it's surreal to watch back and go, yeah. When I was in karting, I used to watch these races and go, yeah, I'd love to do that one day. So yeah. At the same time, those karting races were really good fun. They were really good fun doing them, and helped a lot with races like today because so much goes on in them.
So do you think it's more difficult to commentate in karting then?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I recommend it to anyone that's starting out because when there's big packs of 20 drivers, you've got to pick out drivers by the way they sit in the car and stuff like that, and you could get 5 position changes in one corner, and it's so good fun. That's why I'd love to do the grand finals if I ever get the chance, because it is really, really good fun. And even I got to do the FIA karting championships in 2018, and that was amazing. And it's basically all the same drivers as now. The podium, the first race was Paul Aron, Dino Beganovic and Gabriele Minì. So yeah, Zane Maloney was there, and Nico Rosberg had his race team.
The Nico Rosberg Academy.
Yeah. So it was that was a really fun season doing that, and again really surreal doing it. But yeah, it was just seeing the Tony Kart racing team. I was like, oh my, yeah. It was an incredible experience. So, but yeah, I always recommend to people go and give that a go, because the first championship I did as well, Formula Kart Stars, they all had the same car and the same race suit.
Oh my God.
So you had to pick them out by helmet and gloves.
And without having all the cameras you have on...
Yes, yeah. Doing it from a balcony.
Exactly.
Sometimes full of people, and I just had to get myself in between 2 people and go, yeah, I'm on the mic, so don't swear. Otherwise everyone will hear you. Yeah, doing stuff like that is great fun. Yeah.
I think you saw a lot of crazy things happen on track, and you felt a lot of emotions.
Yeah.
So maybe this is a very difficult, and also maybe I don't want it to be something that maybe they've already asked you, but if I asked you one of the most emotional or craziest experiences you've had on a racetrack, whether it is commentary or racing, what would you pick?
Oh, one of the most emotional experiences on a track. Oh wow. I mean, going to one of the most emotional experiences was probably the 24-hour of Le Mans. Actually, I got to, when I getting the call up for that was incredible. To be the commentator of the event, I do the English commentary for the track.
Wow.
I'll be honest, I don't understand what my colleagues say because they all do the French commentary, and then I just do the English updates. I just hear a lot of French shouting and then get told, your turn. Yeah, okay. But that again was amazing, because I went and watched it in 2019, so to commentate it now is incredible. But 2021 was my let me think now. Actually, it was 2022 was my first race doing that, and going out at the end of the race, they sort of surprised me and said, "You can walk out on the podium. Go for it." And I was like, really? Yeah. And out on the podium we went, and me and Bruno were spraying champagne onto he was spraying champagne onto the crowd, and I was next to him, and I was like, this is insane. So, but yeah, just walking out onto the podium as the drivers walked off. Wow. That for me was probably the one of the most surreal, emotional moments I've ever had, because I remember I was sort of on the track watching that moment 3 years before. So yeah, for me that was good. And then this year, actually, to add on to that, I bought my dad tickets to the event.
Oh my God.
And that was probably even more so, because it was he's been as I've got epilepsy, I can't drive anywhere, and he has driven me everywhere since that happened, to tracks, to studios, and he still does to this day. And so as a present for Christmas last year, I bought him tickets, and this year he came to Le Mans, heard me on the PA system, And that's the first time he heard me commentate since Wilton Mill in 2017. So
that's so
that seeing him hearing me, and he sent me a video and he's like, I can hear you. And then he came and we had a beer together, and that was on the Friday, and that was probably that may have topped it actually.
Thank you for sharing. It's very emotional experience, and I understand. It's very emotional. But we had a curiosity about the Le Mans race.
I was thinking, you obviously sleep for a little bit.
Yes.
And so how does that work? When you wake up, there is like a colleague giving you a debrief, like this happened, and then you go back on? Or
so with the circuit commentary we do, we're there from like 9 in the morning doing the build-up races until it's about 2 in the morning the next day, and then we go back for 4 hours, and then in the morning we come in, and we have in the circuit commentary one we have sort of 4 commentators, the two French guys, me, and then another French guy who does the night shift, and then we have 3 or 4 spotters. And their job is to listen to the radios of the marshals.
Wow.
And then a logger as well who writes everything down that happens, every single incident.
Wow.
So it's a massive team. Like I said, a lot of French shouting. But when we come in the morning, he'll give, this is exactly everything that's happened.
Okay.
They log everything on a laptop. And
so you can read it.
So you just read everything that's happened. Yeah, it's like it's incredibly. Well, I was very overwhelmed the first time I went. I thought, oh my, just a guy listening to 2 radios. They have radios to every single marshal post. So we know before we know when an incident's happened before anyone. Yeah, and we have about 30 TV monitors, so we can see every single marshal post. Yeah.
It's difficult to stay focused with all those inputs.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. But we've been lucky. The last 2 races have been unbelievable. Yeah, the first one wasn't the best race, but because it was my first one, I was just blown away. But lots of coffee. Yeah. Well, Zidane came in this year, which was unbelievable. Yeah, wow. When he came in, everyone was like, "Oh, Zinedine Zidane." Jesus, what the hell?
You're also a football fan,
I know. Yeah, so
wow. Yeah. Thank you for sharing all of this. We would go on talking like for hours and hours, but fortunately our format
allows us to bring guests back.
Yeah. So now we're going towards the final part of this episode, and we were also curious in knowing a bit more about also what you're doing beside commentary. So the initiatives you're carrying on, like we saw the charity event that will go live in a few days because it's the beginning of November. So we wanted to ask you also about that, because we think it's very special to see people who work in motorsport doing something also for people who maybe don't have the same opportunities. So we were curious in knowing about that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you asking. So I'm doing an event with Young Epilepsy Charity called Setting Purple Sectors. We're looking for the first time really to raise awareness in motorsport with epilepsy. Of course, people with epilepsy diagnosed who suffer can't race if they've had a seizure in the last year, but they can be involved in the sport through things like journalism, broadcasting, working as mechanics, marshals. So the idea is to raise money for a growing charity like them who do really good work with young people who are often too scared to talk about epilepsy and the fact that they have it, and then also get people involved in the sport. Maybe if they even don't have epilepsy, suffer with other things that has maybe put them off the idea that they might even be allowed to be involved in this sport. So that's the idea. We're doing an endurance race which is going to involve some big names like Isack Hadjar, Christian Mansell, Zach O'Sullivan's going to be there as well, Colin Turkington, who's a 4-time British touring car champion. It's going to be some fantastic guests. And racing there will also be 3 young people diagnosed with epilepsy who work with the charity, who have never competed before in a race, and for them it's going to be very special racing against those people in the same room, and to meet all of them as well. So the event should be fantastic, and it will be on the 12th of November. We'll stream it live, so yeah, it should be really good if you can either watch it back or watch it live.
Wow.
And how can people get involved?
We have a website. If you go on the Young Epilepsy, or it's in my bio on my social media, but if you go on the Young Other Charities page as well, it's on there, or you can...
Well, we'll leave the link in the description box.
You can see it on their website as well, and they're heavily involved in it. We've worked on it since April. It's been a big thing for them, and it's going to be fantastic, really. You can either get involved in it and buy tickets to come to the event and race, or just donate to the page, or the dedicated page we have, or just watch the stream. We're going to have some giveaways on the night, some raffles and stuff. So which will be great, and some familiar single-seater drivers. So maybe a champion, maybe a single-seater champion, a special guest coming. So
we hope that this episode will come out before that date, because we need to tell this. Maybe the event will be already on, but we hope that this...
Yeah, even if it's already happened.
If not, you can watch the stream back.
Exactly.
And still donate.
But we will still be taking donations after and doing... And we will look to do it again next year as well, if you want to come and join us next year.
That would be amazing. And thank you for sharing all of this, because we met almost by chance. I mean, it was a... I must say then when we received your message, I thought it was a fake account, because I said, how is it possible that Chris McCarthy is writing to us? But then it was true, and Ian Silvestrin, who we say hi to him, and he was another guest of ours, gave you our contact details. It's a true pleasure to talk to you, Chris, and thank you for your time. We are actually going towards the last question, unless you have something else. We go. This is the.
If you want to.
Yeah, the traditional. No, actually, I had one before. Sorry, I'm a bit a chatterbox. They called me when I was little, because about this also charity event. I mean, I think that in motorsport you have the idea of the driver who is so strong, so heroic, very. But then it's also nice to raise awareness on things, also, I don't know, psychological problems, which drivers are now speaking more about, but they did it in the past. And you try to raise awareness on another aspect too. And I think it's very important, but I also think it's a great mental effort, because you are through that, and people who are not through that can't know it. And I mean, is it challenging? Did you learn to maybe cope with that better, and also to speak about it better? Was it difficult for you, or was it something that you actually managed to let in and let out quite naturally?
No, speaking about my epilepsy took a long time, to be honest. It was really hard to get that out as well. It took me years to I guess admit to myself that it was a thing. I didn't speak about it to people. The thing that actually made me get it out was I went to a job at Castelletto.
Castelletto Branduzzo.
Yeah.
Wow, that's my home circuit.
Yeah. And I know, but I didn't tell the organizer, RGMMC. I didn't tell them that I was suffering with epilepsy, because I used to keep it to myself, and I suffered with a seizure at the hotel that's on the track, which, as you know, is a sort of a lodge. And because I hadn't told anyone, no one knew what was going on, and it's all sort of gravel there, as you know, and I suffered a seizure there. No one knew what was going on, and I damaged the whole right side of my body, and the promoter didn't know what was going on, and they got very scared, and it sort of caused a panic amongst the paddock. And from that day, I sort of thought, right, this is, and the promoter had a word and said, you can't do that. And so that was a big turning point for me, where I sort of, from then on, I made sure everywhere I went, people in the room knew that I had it. And then when I get triggers, when I know I'm not feeling well, I knew that okay, I'm now not feeling well, just so you know. And even to this day, if I don't feel well, I just tell people, and then they know what to do. And then mentally as well, I suffered mental, you know, I went through mental problems myself back in 2018 and opened up about those. And the paddock, again, were very welcoming to that. And, you know, I went kind of off grid for like 3 months when I ran a karting magazine, and had to sort of stop that quite abruptly. Went sort of off grid, but when I opened up about it online for a social media post, I was hosting the British Championship Awards straight off the back of it, and that's how the paddock kind of took me back in. So to anyone, I'd say just if you open up about it, then the paddock is very welcoming to support. So yeah, that was one of the 2018 was a turning point for me. Off the back of that, I was doing a lot of stuff, including the FIA Karting Championship. So the more you speak about it and ask for help, the more help you'll get.
Wow. Thank you very much, because I think this is a very important message also to all the people who listen and watch us. I don't know how to thank you, but now I leave the word to Nikki for the final question.
Okay.
Yeah, so our final question is in regards to our name, because we chose the pass to have something in common between life on track and life off track. So the pass is obviously an overtake on track.
Yeah.
But then in life is when you overcome something that meant a lot to you, maybe a fear, maybe a moment of difficulty. And so you obviously opened up a lot with us already, so thank you. But we always ask our guests what is the pass. So that moment when they said, okay, I did it and I'm proud of it. Or maybe you can even say an overtake that was really special for you that you commentated on.
So something that I've achieved that I'm really proud of. Oh, that's
or something that you've overcome that
that seemed like a mountain, but then you achieved it.
No, it's a good question. I mean, definitely running karting magazine was a real good one for me, because I was a really young journalist at the time, and that was a huge one to take on. And as I said, off the back of that, it didn't end so well, but it came with some mental challenges. But I guess getting through that kind of led me into this career. But to go with another one, I'd say the break into F1 TV. It was a massive goal of mine to get to F1 TV. You know, since I started my career, and it took a lot of work, a long time, multiple years. And there was times I really didn't think it was going to happen. To be honest, I went multiple ways. I started changing my career to two-wheeled racing. I changed my career to esports, and then to GT racing, just because I thought, but I always kept. I put my goals on my wall next to my desk, and I always kept on the wall, F2 and F3, next 5 years, and then eventually 2022 Porsche Supercup, I got the call from F1 to get it, and so when I did that first race at Monaco and I got in the door, I was. Yeah, that was a big moment for me. So I'd say that was the pass, definitely.
Thank you.
I'd say if you've got a goal, just keep at it. Sometimes you might have to go through a few chicanes, but you'll get there eventually.
Thank you very much.
No worries.
Wow, thank you, Chris. This chat is priceless for us, and it was a true honor. I hope that all our listeners and viewers also enjoyed it as much. If you want to keep enjoying and keep supporting us to have incredible guests and stories such as Chris's one, please subscribe, YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, Facebook, TikTok, everything. Please stay tuned also with Chris's activities and with his events, and obviously hearing his voice, which is more common maybe than watching him here, but we hope you will also have the possibility to watch him again here. Thank you so much.
The Autodromo.
Oh, I was
for
forgetting.
Giving us the space.
I'm sorry, and thank you to Lorenzo Arnone, who is
really
here behind us. maybe if you have some good light, it's not thanks to us, it's thanks to him. So thank you very much, Lawrence. Thank you to the Autodromo Nazionale Monza, especially to Matteo Losa, Matteo Principe, who gave us this amazing spot here. And thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you, Bev.
Bye.
See you next
from
time.
Mattia.
Nicole.
See you later. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. To the next Truck Talk.
Because in some way, the past is also about you.